Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about the most important elements of a successful B2B SEO campaign and how you can work towards SEO success for your business this year. So when it comes to a B2B SEO campaign, like any SEO campaign, the first place to start is having a really clear set of objectives. Objective setting is super critical so that we know where we're going, what we're doing, and to keep us on track as we're doing it. From an SEO perspective, typical SEO metrics usually rely around rankings, traffic, and then leads or sales. And for a B2B campaign, it's no different. We still look to consider rankings and traffic, but actually the latter part after rankings and traffic from an objective setting perspective usually resides around understanding more about the journey and whether we're driving leads or video views or data downloads as a goal. So in the first instance, what we aim to do is be really clear about the objectives that we're going to look to achieve and how those objectives are going to translate into a series of goals from a technical and commercial perspective to drive our SEO initiative forward. Once we've got our SEO objectives kind of nailed and we know what we're doing with them, the next step is to clearly define who we're targeting. So from a targeting perspective, the really big difference between B2B SEO and B2C or e-commerce SEO is that the product lifecycle, the sales lifecycle, is much longer for a B2B sale actually. So when we're talking about B2B kind of SEO targeting and considering who we're going after and what we want to achieve, we have to consider the types of industries we want to go after, the markets that we want to be targeting, and then within those industries and markets, the actual people that we want to target that will be the decision makers for buying into the product or services that we're looking to sell. That can be by job function or by job role, and usually we have to try and understand the end user so that we can try and craft content that talks to them in language they understand, but also presents a really solid business case for them to entertain us as a supplier or as a vendor of a solution that will help them with their challenge. When it comes to those users, once we've identified who they are, the next kind of key element of a B2B SEO campaign is what their journey looks like as they progress through their search for a B2B service or product. In terms of an online journey, we tend to find that at POLARIS, we follow a three kind of phase journey approach where we segment a user's journey into an awareness, engagement, and a conversion phase. We do this so that we can identify the topics or content themes that may be applicable to a user when they're at either of these stages, and so that we can measure users as they travel through this journey or this funnel through to the end result, which is most likely a lead. By splitting the journey out into these three phases, it gives us a more granular kind of level of approach to our SEO strategy, and it allows us to understand what content needs to be placed where and how we can continue to drive users through that journey online. From understanding this, we then want to try and target use cases or pain points of these users and understand what their challenges are that are causing them to go online and actually search for a vendor or look for a solution to a business challenge that they're encountering. So if a user is in a financial function or they're in a marketing function and actually they know that they have a challenge with some kind of data, they will be querying what that challenge is directly within the search engine. We want to ensure that our content actually comes up. It could be long form content that we've prepared that covers a number of different use cases and targets a number of different queries. And then once that's returned within the search results, the company is then exposed as a potential supplier of that solution or use case, and then awareness is then created. So understanding their journey and then splitting out their journey into awareness, engagement, and conversion, and understanding the types of search queries that may be occurring by these users at each of those three phases is key. Once we've understood how users are getting on and how once we've understood how users are engaging and what type of queries they're using to search for solutions to their business challenge, we then want to know what the best format is for us to deliver this information and requirement to these users. Within content marketing, there's so many different ways that we can produce content. It always seems to be the kind of go-to format is a blog, just because it's time and cost effective and it's easy from a production point of view. The downside to blogs is that the internet is flooded with blogs every day, and content sometimes can just end up being produced for the sake of being content. And actually, that's where we want to rein things back and remind ourselves of what our goals are with anything related to kind of production and SEO initiatives. So understanding what the best format is to deliver any kind of informational need for a B2B use case or B2B user is critical. And we should remind ourselves of the variety of different types of content that are useful to someone in a B2B capacity. Sometimes it is a video, an explainer video, and B2B explainer videos are a really, really common format, which are used by tech companies to explain how processes work and how use cases or business challenges are overcome by a technological solution. So that's something that's a really kind of dominant format to deliver information within. Other formats that are popular are white papers or demos, actually, online demos and things like that. So there are a number of different formats that we can deliver information within. And from a B2B strategy point of view, we should consider all of these formats and how they can help to engage these users in a different way. And then the final element of making sure that the final most important element of a B2B SEO strategy is reporting. So being able to understand the actual value gleaned from your B2B strategy often pulls up the requirement of being able to report on data offline. So for many B2B clients that we work with, the end goal, as far as we can track, is usually a lead being generated on a website. Once that lead's been generated, the opportunity then moves into a business development kind of strategy or process, and then that's kind of taken off-site or away from SEO. At that point, that lead is still being nurtured, it's still being developed, and that process for a B2B site can take anywhere from 6 months to 3 or 4 years. So depending on the lifetime of your SEO strategy, it's important to tie in data from your CRM system and to periodically report on the data that exists in there. Typically, we want to be making sure that our leads are tagged with the root source of where those leads have come from within our CRM system. And then at the end of every quarter or financial year, we should be retrospectively pulling report data out from that CRM to look at which leads were generated, the source of those leads, and how they have progressed, ideally into closed-won opportunities which have driven revenue, but also at a lower level, opportunities that were still qualified but may not have gone the whole process. So the reporting element is also super critical in understanding what value is being delivered from an SEO strategy, and that will help to really understand how you can continue to improve your SEO strategy for your business and continue to drive performance going forward.